As promised, today on the Set It podcast, we have a very special guest, Mr. Danny Mullen of Raw Fitness right here in Washington Township, Michigan. Danny, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, fellas? Super excited, man. Thank you for having me here.
Heck yeah. No, it's great to have you. And, you know, Danny, you guys are focused not just directly on fitness, but that's where it starts for you. And, you know, this for us is somewhat of a fitness related thing, but it goes so much more broadly than that. Trying to set goals, trying to, there's only so much in life that we can control. You have these little moments and you have to be able to throttle them and get all you can out of it. And so I wonder in your own life, how you approach goal setting, because it can be daunting. One of the things Zach and I talk about is you want to be aggressive with your goal, but you don't want to be overly aggressive to where you're setting yourself up to really struggle.
Yeah. And, I kind of like how you said that, Zach. It's a process for sure. And it's you got to find that balance, in terms of setting an aggressive goal, something that excites you, but at the same time, not setting yourself up for failure where you just kind of give up. And, that's a lot of what we do at Raw is we really try to encourage people to look at it at the holistic, kind of approach, instead of like, okay, I just want to be able to lose 30 pounds or I just want to do X, Y, or Z. Like your life isn't compartmentalized like that. You know what I mean? Like everything is affected by everything. So when it comes to setting goals, like for myself, that's the approach I take. Like, what do I want out of my life? In the big picture scheme of things, and what do I want for my family? And, looking at that as a whole. So like, how does my financial health help my health and well-being? Or how does my relationships help me in my career? It's all connected. And I think if, we can get out of the habit of just compartmentalizing, man, I can't even say that word, but, with goals, like it's gonna really open things up for people. So, once I figure out like what is that long-term vision of what I want to, proceed in my life or my career or my health or whatever it is I got to figure out like, why do I want that? Because that's the big thing that myself and everybody else sometimes run into issues with is, we set these goals, like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds this year, or I want to, make $20,000 more this year or whatever it is. But we don't really have that back end of like, well, why do I really want to do that? Or what is that how is that going to benefit my life? And if we can figure out, what it is that we want and then why it is that we want it, that's where you get the juice flowing. That's where you get the motivation. That's where when you don't feel like setting your alarm at 4 a.m. to wake up for a 5 o'clock workout. Those are the things that get you out of bed. And if you don't have that, you're very susceptible to falling off, or, by come February, your New Year's resolutions are no more, is not having that emotional attachment. So whatever my goal I set for myself is, I stand back and I say, okay, why do I really want that? And I keep digging, I'll ask myself why for every answer I get until I really get to the root cause and the emotional attachment. Because if I can attach emotion to it, I'm going to be a lot more susceptible to overcome some obstacles and, because they're always going to come up and everything else there. And, so then I have my vision. I have, what is it that I want to accomplish that allows me to make my decisions, right? So it really comes down to the decisions you make. Is this decision getting me closer to my goal or further away? And if I have that vision, now I can make the decisions based off that. And then I chunk it down. So if I have a 10-year goal, well, what do I want to do this year? What is the outcome goal that I want this year to get me one step closer to that? So starting with some type of outcome goal, having a timeline for it, making sure it's realistic and it's measurable, and then working backwards from there. Okay, well, what are my obstacles from reaching that? So if, I want to lose 20 pounds, what's stopping me from doing that right now with how I'm living, right? What are those obstacles? And that'll give you your answer on what you need to do. So when we set goals at Raw, or when I set goals personally, we set our outcome goals. We figure out what our obstacles or triggers are from doing that. Then we set process goals, 3 to 5 things that I'm going to do consistently every day or every week or month or whatever. That's going to get me to reach those goals. And then the most important thing that I think a lot of people struggle with that I love this part of it is tracking it. if you're not assessing, you're guessing, right? So figuring out what are your performance indicators for whatever your goal is, and then tracking them consistently. Like, am I on track, off track? If I am, great, keep doing the things that are working. If I'm not, figure out what tweaks you need to be made. But you got to track it and measure it and see if it makes sense. And if your goal is not measurable, it's not an adequate goal. You need to have something that's measurable.
So there's a little bit of homework involved with that. It's not just doing the act itself, but it's, doing the why or the purpose or the progress along the way. Because I know for Zach and I, when we started this, our very first episode was, launching into 2021. It was an easy one. Let's lose weight. Let's do the health factor because that's what we know.
It was an easy one. I gained weight. So it's nice for Zach to say how easy it was.
No, I'm saying it was easy to use that as the driving force to get started. I'm not saying it was an easy thing to accomplish. By no means am I selling. I'm not trying to throw you under
in the corner.
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, Zach. But the thing about it, Danny,
Zach, you lost weight with that haircut, though.
I know.
hey, whatever he can do to make it work, right? But that's
looking good, though.
That's the thing, Danny, though. We see this as, we knew going into it that was going to be a big thing for people. And, when I look at it too, I kind of feel, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I feel like if you have a base of a healthy lifestyle, from whether it's, physical exercise, eating healthy, I kind of feel that helps to get you to
everything
better be able to
everything.
That'll allow you to better accomplish other goals you set out for in life, because you've got a well-oiled machine at that point. And so that's kind of like your base. But when you get into the gym world, the working out world here, the fitness world, have you seen a direct upswing in membership at the beginning of the year here?
Yeah, so it's funny, with us being in the fitness industry, everyone's expecting like January 1st, everyone's knocking on our door. Ours is a little bit different. We have a little bit of a unique business model. It's a little bit more personalization. We in our model, we have what's called our Queen Bee role, which is essentially like, what's our biggest like reason that people want to come see us, love us, stay with us, all that. And ours is our personal touch. We had a lot of personal touch to ours. Now, you can't do that at Planet Fitness where they have 10,000 members. So, we tend to we don't get that big swing early in January. We tend to get the people that kind of maybe start out at Planet or try different things, and it's just not quite working the way they think or they hoped or whatever it may be. So then they kind of seek out us for a little bit extra support, accountability. So to answer the question, like, we didn't at first, but the last probably 10 days, it's probably been our best 10 days in the last really like 13, 14 months. So we have started now, which is usually when we do start to see at the end of January, beginning of February, our bigger upswing in memberships and things like that.
That makes sense, because when we talked previously on the podcast, it was, kind of a 3-week timeline for people with these goals. It was, you were either you were making it habitual after 3 weeks, or you were kind of throwing in the towel. So that would make sense that within the last 10 days, you've seen an uptick maybe in people who weren't necessarily getting it done the way they were expecting to when they originally set out the original plan for accomplishing their goals. So if you are getting those people in, how do you keep them motivated if maybe they've been discouraged or they're not seeing the payoff? Like, what's your job there as the motivator to make people stick with it when they do come to Raw Fitness?
Yeah, so I mean that's really the ultimate question, right? I mean that's why we are in business, is to help people kind of weave in and out of, the ups and downs of health and wellness. Because as I'm sure you guys know, or anybody else knows that has dove into improving their health and wellness, it's not a linear process. You know what I mean? There's lots of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, obstacles, wins, losses, and so our job is to kind of bring them back to why is it, like I mentioned, like for what I do with my goals, why is it that you want to accomplish any of these goals? And maybe if people listen to this podcast, earlier in the year before they come see it, they might have better success because they're going to have more of a GPS, if you will, is the way I like to look at it on where they're trying to go. But the biggest thing really is getting them back to that why, or that emotional attachment to it, because so many things can come up or happen in life. Obstacles come in the way, I got busy at work or holidays or whatever it is. Like if we can keep that in the back of that mind, that why, or that emotional reason for why getting workouts in throughout the week, why eating healthier, why doing some of these things that it takes to, lose weight or whatever that goal is important to them. Well, it's going to make it easier to get back on that wagon or remotivate them and keep them motivated. It's just like anything else, guys. Like, it's a skill set. Weight loss or success in any endeavor, whether it's weight loss or finances or career or whatever, it's a skill set, and I'm sure you guys know, like your first podcast you ever did compared to the ones you do now, like I'm sure you look at those like, what were we doing? Like you had to build the skill set up to get better at it. And it's just like anything else. Like if you build up that skill set, you're going to get a little bit better. And so I love this. I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but Warren Buffett, he had this quote. It was something like, the ones that win are the ones that focus on the field and not on the scoreboard, right? So instead of where a lot of people get into issues and they lose their motivation, is because they're only focused on the outcome goals instead of the process goals. The process goals are the ones that get you the outcome. So reining people back in, finding out what their why is, getting them to focus on the process and not so much the outcome, and then just start taking massive action. Okay, because that's where the money's made. And it's, if you don't, again, the kind of the fun stuff here, but like if you don't understand your belief system, of how because really everybody's reality that they experience is an external reflection of their internal perceptions, right? So whatever your belief system is about yourself or the world around you, that's what you're gonna experience, right? So if we can get an understanding of what people's beliefs are about themselves, that is what helps us to really dive deep into somebody's goals and figure out what do they need to do. So we have this thing called the reticular activating system. It's a part of the brain. It's essentially a wiring of neurons that are really to input sensory data. So what I see, what I touch, because if I'm driving a car, I can't itch my back, turn the radio on, read the McDonald's billboard that's coming up, see the car. Like you can't process all that data at once. Your mind has to see okay, let me take in the data that's the most important, and it takes in the data based on your belief systems or what your unconscious mind is focused on. So if you have a goal set in mind, well, your reticular activating system is going to start looking for things in your surroundings that will help you with that, because you are what you focus on. So it's, I don't know if you guys are golfers. I love golf. So it's kind of like you're sitting at the tee box and, you're like, all right, there's water to the right. Don't go in the water. Don't go in the water. Well, what always happens?
You go in the water.
Go in the water, right? Because that's what your brain and mind is focused on. So you'll start to do that. So even if it's not what you want, your mind is focused on that. So it'll start to look and do and act as if that is. It has to prove the validity of your belief.
That's
so if you can start to do that, it's understand that it's really powerful stuff.
That's funny you said that, because I was reading a book the other day called the Compound Effect. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but in there he mentions the aspect of, all of a sudden, as soon as you start looking for a car to buy, or let's say you purchase a new car, all of a sudden you see those all over the road. And it's not because
everywhere.
They magically appeared overnight. It's because your brain is got your new car or what you're thinking about purchasing on the mind. So you're focused on that, and somehow those become more visible. So perception is kind of reality in this, you know what I mean? And that makes complete sense to kind of, do things that are going to focus your attention on achieving that ultimate goal. And that just seems like it's going to be something that's going to push you farther. That's a interesting correlation you made there, Danny.
Yeah, 100%.
Danny, we look at what you guys do and how it works, and I know that the family that you guys have created is so important. And one of the things that Zach and I have talked about doing is creating something similar conceptually, in that you build a group of support, of accountability. And we asked about your role, and you mentioned kind of that queen bee style of leadership or of structuring. And so certainly the queen bee matters, but we know if we're making a beehive analogy, because why not? The worker bees serve an extremely vital role as well. I mean, they make the honey. You have to have the honey, right? And so I wonder what you think that your community, what the role that they play outside of you, and maybe that's your coaches too, but I wonder what the group value is.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like if you go back to our like ancestral days, like we were built around tribes, we're built around support systems, accountability, and if we like to call what you're talking about, Zach. We call it at Raw is like your dream team. Like who are you surrounding yourself with, and are they helping you get one step closer to your vision, or are they taking you further away? And obviously it's not always practical, but like we always encourage, try to surround yourself with like-minded people that are have similar vision, that have similar goals, that have are working on the same processes that you are. And I really think that I can give somebody some advice on how to become healthier, right? Until I'm blue in the face. But if they don't have that support system and some level of accountability, it really doesn't matter what I say. It's you need that to be a part of your society, be a part of your tribe, if you will, in order to be successful, or else it's really like, what's the point? We're built to be a part of a group or part of a tribe, and if we're not getting that experience, it makes it harder to follow through with and harder to stick and maintain with.
I think it's about surrounding yourself with, positive people too, right? You cut out the negativity, and you find the things that are going to make you the best you that you can be. Now, Danny, when I was going through this first, 31 days, I had set my goal of getting on my Peloton bike every day for the next 31 days. The entire month of January, I was going to do a ride on the bike. And, I accomplished that goal. I was happy that I accomplished that goal. But now moving forward, it's almost like a new stress in my life, because I've got this streak going, and I've started to feel a little bit of almost like a burden where I have to do it, because it's still not completely just an automatic thing.
Well, remember what he said, though. It's about the field, not the scoreboard. And your 31 is the scoreboard, right?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying?
And from a mental standpoint, that's huge for me, though. And
this is a coaching axiom. Coaches will always tell you the only people that care about the scoreboard are the people that sign their paychecks, and that's what matters the most. But they don't coach to the score. They coach to the process.
That's a great point, Zach.
And if you complete your process, the score should follow.
So how then, Danny, do I scale back and still keep on that road to success? Is it what Zach said? Do we focus
Hell
on
yeah.
Do we focus on the field and not necessarily, that's more the broad ultimate goal, as opposed to what that tiny little micro goal for 1 month out of the entire year is?
Yeah, I mean, what Zach said is definitely a part of it, or if we look at sport analogies like Bill Belichick, right? He's the master at like, focus on your role, focus on your responsibility, your process. The outcomes will come because of that, right? Because of the process of all of us at an individual level. So it's kind of the same thing. So I mean, it's really good that you did that, and it's great, and you're building those small wins so you can build that confidence in your skill set. Kind of like what I was saying before, like if you want to become healthier this year, that's the big picture, that's the outcome. Obviously we'd get more in depth than just healthier, right? But like you broke it down and like, all right, the next 30 days or 31 days, I'm going to hit the Peloton bike every day. Like that's just that's the process this month that I'm going to do. But what I would say to like build off of that is one thing. So when we're building goals with people at Raw, we take the process of, we have our outcome. What's the obstacle from us reaching that outcome? So for you, it was like, I'm just not getting enough movement in my day. Okay. So what can I do then to start to do that? So, okay, I'm going to hit the Peloton bike 31 days. But the thing is, when we build those at the end of our plan that we build out with somebody, is we ask like, okay, what is your confidence level in following through with this? So if on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being like, yep, easy, I'm going to do that, no problem. 1 being like, nah, there's no way I'm going to do that. Like we say, like this plan is not going to be complete or finished or started to work on until it's a 9 or 10 confidence level. So when you're building out these processes, goals, you got to have a confidence level that you're willing and able to follow through with it. So, and you're willing to make these a part of your standard. Think of like how many adults have the standard of, I'm going to brush my teeth every day.
Hopefully everybody.
I bet you not enough.
Right? Not enough, right?
Right. But most of us do, like at least to some capacity, have, we like to brush our teeth, and it's just a standard that we live by. And it's the same thing with,
we've talked about
the healthiest person you know. Yeah, like who's the healthiest person you know? Well, what do? They probably work out consistently. They probably eat pretty well. They thrive on the standards that they put in place that they're willing and able to do. It's not that they have more time in the day. It's not that they're not as busy as we are. They just set those standards and live by those standards that they're willing and able to do, and then start to act as if you're already that person. So Zach, it's great that you did that, but maybe you reassess, right? Okay, at the end of the 31 days, well, what did I learn over these last 31 days? And then what am I willing and able to keep up with to make a part of my standard? Well, maybe it's not every day, but maybe it's 4 days a week. Right. Well, or maybe it's, whatever it is,
What do you do, Danny, because you mentioned there's a big C word in there, and it's not the one that everybody goes to when I say that, but it's confidence. And so, so I wonder though what you do, because I think a lot of people lose control of their fitness or whatever it may be because of a lack of self-confidence. And so how do you, when you're trying to get people to but believe the goal is a 9 or a 10, but some people, I bet they just can't get there mentally to a 9 or a 10 where they have no confidence, no feeling that they can do that. So then what do you do?
So if they don't have the 9 or the 10 confidence level, then it's not a good plan. It's just not a good goal. So you got to work backwards. So, I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm helping somebody set a goal and they're like, oh, I'm at a 5. Well, okay, what can we take out of this, or what can we tweak or change to get you to a 9 or 10? Well, what if we do this? Okay, well, where are you at now? Well, maybe I'm at an 8. Okay, well, let's scale back even more. What do we need to do? So you can start it at the most basic level. So that's one thing in order for people to turn this into a lifestyle, if you will. Like, you don't need to try to do it in one fell swoop. Like, you don't need to lose your 30 pounds in the next 30 days. I mean, sure, that's what everyone wants, but it's not sustainable at the same time. You don't have that 9 or 10 confidence that you can do that and achieve it. And the problem is when you don't have that confidence level, what happens is you don't believe you're going to achieve it, so you just stop doing it. You're not motivated by it anymore.
It's almost like unrealistic.
Right, it's unrealistic, so you're not going to follow through. So you can say like, okay, instead of saying I'm going to work out every day, I'm going to follow this diet, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. Like, say like one thing is I'm going to get, say you only drink 1 glass of water a day. I'm going to aim to get 1.5 glasses of water in for the next 30 days. It's small. You're like, it's not that much more than I'm doing now. I feel confident I can do that. For some people, that's like, that's too easy. But that's fine. Everybody's coming from a different perception and different situation, that you just need to keep scaling back your plan until you have that confidence level so you can build those small wins, so you can build that skill set. Everybody's starting from a different point. So there's no black and white answer that it needs to be X, this or that or whatever. It's relative to the individual. And if you can scale back as slow or as little amount of things as possible, so you can get that confidence level that you can follow through, not that you can achieve, right? The confidence level isn't to say like, oh, I'm going to achieve this. The confidence level is that I'm going to follow, that I have the confidence I can follow through with it, right? So if Zach said, okay, 31 days, I have a 9 out of 10 scale that I can follow through with that. But if we said, all right, for the next 365 days, can you do that? That 9 or 10 probably drops a little bit.
It's gonna be a 1 at that point, Danny. I can assure you right now.
Right.
But it's basically, it boils down to, you got to start somewhere. I think that's what you're saying. It's like, regardless of how big or how small, you got to start somewhere. But Danny, you're in the fitness world. You are, you're seeing other people set goals on a daily basis. But what about you personally? Do you have anything that you have, whether it be personal or professional, that you're setting out for 2021 to make a goal that you want to accomplish?
He does.
He's got to. I mean, the guy he practically wrote the book on goal setting.
I mean, I'm an analytics freak too. Like, I have spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets that this spreadsheet goes to that spreadsheet. So I love this whole concept of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I got tons of goals. I mean, my main goal overall is really to help with my mental well-being. It took a big hit, really the last 14 or so months, just with different things going on in life and all that. Obviously we all dealt with COVID, so I'm sure everybody can relate to that part of it. So my biggest thing is really like getting back to, just a more positive outlook on life. So like I have a ton of different things, and obviously I'm biased, and we mentioned it earlier. Like, if we can improve our mental state, if we can improve our physical bodies, it's just going to translate into other aspects of my life. Just being better and building the wins in there will help me build the wins, elsewhere. So like a couple of mine, like I dedicate, I'm going to get 20 workouts in a week. Or I'm sorry, yeah, right.
Damn,
that
Mark Wahlberg over here.
That would not be a 9 out of 10 confidence level. That would not be a 9 out of 10 confidence level. No, so 20 workouts a month is one of them. I'm big on doing things for recovery for the nervous system and your stress. So, I have different sleep goals that I'm aiming to get. I have I take a contrast shower, like a cold shower, 3 times a week. That helps with my nervous system. My biggest one that I really want and need to get back to is reading. I love to learn. I love to educate myself and better myself there through knowledge. So I set a goal of 15 books that I have to read this year, with a stretch goal of trying to get to 20, and just make it a part of my living.
Got a goal inside of a goal. There was 2 goals right there. Did you catch that?
It doesn't shock me. It does not surprise me.
It's like GoFundMe. There was a stretch goal.
Danny, what's next on the reading list? What do you got up next? Because I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm always looking for books to read or reread.
I'm reading highlights for kids.
Hey, you're starting somewhere, Zach.
That's
exactly.
like the colors.
I tend to, again, I break mine down pretty heavily. So it's not just a broad 15 books or whatever. It's got to be around the theme of what I'm trying to accomplish. So one of the things for myself is, obviously I mentioned my mental well-being and just finding joy in life again, passion. So I'm reading a lot of things that will help with that. Christy and I, my wife, we're reading a book together, which I think is really powerful as well. It's called Joy. It's with the Archbishop somewhere in Africa. I'm trying to remember his name, and the Dalai Lama. They kind of like had like a
Desmond Tutu
type thing. What's that?
Desmond Tutu. I think he's the Archbishop. Either way,
I think it is Desmond Tutu. Yeah. But anyway, they like get together, and then they kind of just hung out and talk, and like a guy was following them. And they dive into like, how do you experience joy? I just started that one, but so that's one of the ones I'm reading right now. I'm big as well if I look into the business. I'm trying to improve my leadership skills. That's really big for me this year going into 2021.
Yeah, you're throwing out Warren Buffett quotes. I expected like a Jordan or a Gretzky quote, and you're throwing out Warren Buffett quotes. So the inner business mogul inside of you is showing through a little bit here.
I love it though. It's my passion now. I've grown up. Oh, I still love my basketball. I'm itching to play, but
you got to be well rounded. I mean, that's huge. You're more than just a personal trainer or a fitness expert. You are somebody who is an entrepreneur and that takes a whole well-rounded set of skills too to just go through that grind. So, I'm really looking forward to see how things progress with Raw Fitness, how your goal setting goes.
We're going to have you back too,
yeah, because we're going to need help along the way. Zach and I are spending this entire year going through different goals and trying to keep ourselves motivated too. So Danny Mullen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Set It podcast. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it. Love what you're doing. Love the message. Love the theme. I think it's something that we all can benefit from. So I'm looking forward to hopping in as a consumer and jumping out with you guys.
You're the best, Danny. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
There you have it. Somebody who's a little more of an expert in the field than we are. So, hopefully that helps you guys keep focused on your goals as things progress here.
Zach, one of the things I noticed just before we tag out is that, when we were setting goals, we were talking about vocalizing them. But when you listen to Danny, it's so much more than
There's a science to it, man. Well, there really is.
And I don't want people to get, I don't want to say bogged down on it because he's got such a strong process, but like I was stunned by, and not really because I know Danny, but like just how meticulous the planning was. That, when we talk about goals being actionable, it's like actionable.
Oh yeah.
But in the sense that it is from start to finish planned out. And you and I had talked about accountability and things like that, but I mean, that was like second or third level stuff. I mean, and it just, but see, and everything is structured like that.
That's the thing, Zach, though. Most of the people out there who are setting goals are like you and I. We're not going to necessarily take all those things into consideration when we're getting started, but that's why we're also bringing people like that into the fold to
set the course.
Yeah. And to give a little more insight when you feel like you're maybe not necessarily accomplishing the things you want to accomplish. Well, maybe it's because you haven't looked at it analytically the same way somebody like Danny would when he's setting goals for his customers or right. his the people who are in there trying to set their own goals. So hopefully this was a really informative podcast for you guys.
Dude, I mean, forget the people out there. I don't care what I'm just kidding.
Listen to this one twice.
But I mean, seriously, like I feel like, and I know that we seek this out when we shouldn't, but I feel somewhat validated too, because some of the things that Danny was talking about, you and I have talked about, you and I have done. So we aren't totally, I mean, obviously you have lost the weight, but we're not totally off course or off in our thinking, because some of the stuff Danny was talking about, you and I had already talked about. I mean, how many, he even used the toothbrushing. We've talked about that a couple times. You don't make time to brush your teeth.
You just do it. No, I'm with you 100% on that, Zach. And this is what we're doing here on the Set It podcast. Yeah. And, stay tuned though for next week, because, it's time for you and I to set a new goal.
Yeah.
To follow up on. It's going to be something that is very actionable, like Danny talked about.
So that now
we're going to have to use his grading scale when we go into this too. That's a new one we're going to bring into the fold.
Well, I think from now on we have to.
So
we're going to, how about this right here, Zach? Before we walk away, our goal for the rest of this year is to make sure the ones that we set are at least a 9. That's what the expert said. So we're going to do it too.
I like it.
From here on out, Zach and I will converse, and no goal that we set will be anything less than a 9.
I'm writing it down in ink, so that
it has to be real.
I love it.
All the kids at home are like, "You're writing it down in what?"
Yeah, a pen. Does that go straight to the cloud?
Yeah.
No.
Well, actually,
They do make that now.
I know but 32andmain.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter. Again, 32andmain.com, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, 32andmain.com.